Welcome everyone. In this video I'm going to go over 4 challenges from my random numbers video. So the very first challenge was to create 2 numbers between 1 and 6, simulating a dice roll. So we need to start off with our random number generator, not the raw security descriptor, the random... Nope, random... I'll get it eventually. There we go. So we've created our random number generator, and we're going to need to create 2 numbers for that. So I'm going to call this dice1. We're going to use our random number generator to generate a number between 1 and 6, and that will store it in dice1. Second, we're going to generate a second random number generator and store it in dice2. We'll do a console.writeLine, and we'll output both the results. Let's output them on different lines. And we'll finish off with the read key to stop it closing down at the end. And we'll test it out. When you're using random number generators, it's always a good idea to test a few times to make sure that what you're creating is actually random. So I've got 2 5s, then you want to test it a couple more times, 2 2s. So I'm a little bit worried that it's generating the same random number twice. However, a third time, it's fine this time. So it was just a pure coincidence that it generated the same number twice. Second challenge. Write a program that generates a random number between 1 and 100. Now I kind of got a bit lazy with this one. This is very similar to the one from the selection video where they have to guess whether it is higher or lower. So I think I'm not going to do this one. I'm going to skip to challenge 3. If you want to see how to do this one, just go back and look at the selection video. That is challenge 4 on the selection video. I kind of wasn't thinking when creating that challenge, so I'm going to go straight on to challenge 3. So this is a bit of an interesting challenge because the way to properly do this is using techniques that you haven't seen yet. You can do it with techniques that I have shown you, however. It's a little bit inefficient, but I just want to show you how you can do this with the techniques that you've already seen. The only one you haven't seen yet is the while loops, but I will show you how to do that as well. So we need to generate 4 random numbers this time. So let's do that. Number 1 and number 2. Let's keep it with 1 and 6. It doesn't actually matter what the 4 random numbers are. So we're going to have 4 separate random numbers. And the idea is, it's kind of like the Mastermind game where you have to choose the 4 random colors. So in the Mastermind board game, you get 4 random colors and you have to guess what colors the other player has chosen, and the other player will tell you how many you've got correct. And the idea is you've got a few attempts to try and guess what the actual combination is. Now, in the future, I might actually create a proper version of this using techniques that more techniques that we look at. But for this one, we are just limited to selection statements. So first thing is we'll get the 4 user inputs. In the future, we can do this with 1 input and separate those 4 inputs, but I haven't shown you how to do that yet. So we're going to get 4 normal inputs. So we're going to go user input 1, like this, equals... We don't want random, int.parse, that's what we want. So we'll get user input 1, 2, 3, and 4. 2, 3, 4. We'll do a console.writeLine as well, and we'll say, please enter number 1. And we'll do that for the other ones. Don't have to do this because it doesn't actually tell you to get them to write this output in the instructions. But I like to do this anyway, just to sort of make it easier when I'm running the program to see where we are in the program. So how can we check these numbers against these numbers? Well, we can do a simple if statement to say if num1 is equal to user input 1, then how do we keep track of how many they've got correct? This is where I'm going to create a counter, which we learnt in the previous video on arithmetic operators. So let's create a counter started at 0. And if you remember, I showed you a technique where if you go counter plus equals 1, so any variable plus equals 1, we'll increase that by 1. So what we can do is at the end, we can go console.write line, you have found counter numbers. Why isn't it doing that? Oh, because I put a plus equals. I've got plus equals on the brain. There we go. So counter numbers. So if we do that with the rest of them, 2, 3, 4, plus equals 1, we're going to check against the second one, check against the third one, check against the fourth one. Now, if I was doing this using some future techniques, I would be able to do one user input, get them to do 4 numbers in one user input, and then I'll be able to use other techniques to separate those 4 numbers. We're not going to do that right now, though. We're just going to use this simple set of if statements. So let's test, see if we got this correct. So I'm going to guess for now. We'll do 2, 2, 2, 2, and I found no numbers. Let's put a space here so it looks a bit better. So easy way to test this out is just do a console.write line. We'll do a little test. I want to actually output all of the numbers. num1, num2, num3, num4. I should be doing pluses, not commas. So 1, 2. Why is it only doing 1, 2? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I know what's happening. It's adding them all together. That's annoying. So what's happening is it's adding all the numbers together. So we're going to need to output them on. We could output them on different rows, but yeah, I forgot. If you'd use plus in a console.write line, and there's no other, so if you put 2 numbers integers together and do a plus, it won't output them as strings, it will actually add them together. So let's actually put spaces in between them. We could put them all on separate lines. Yeah, this is annoying, so I'm going to put them all on separate lines actually. Let's output them all on separate lines. I forgot that C# does that. That's better. So 5, 2, 1, 3. So let's get 2 of them correct. So let's get 5, the first one correct. Let's get the second one incorrect. Let's get the third one correct. And the fourth one incorrect. So with this testing, I should be getting 2 numbers correct. So it's found 3 numbers. Oh, I actually got the third one correct. I wasn't actually looking. So yeah, it's got 3 numbers correct. That's what I wanted it to do. So let's test. Let's get none of the numbers correct. So let's go 0, 0, 0, 0. I should have no numbers correct. Let's get all of them correct. Oops, I did not mean to do that. What have I done? Oh, I input when I input no number, so that's why it crashed there. Let's do all of them correct. 1, 5, 5, 3. I found 4 numbers. Now, when I remove this, it will actually turn into a real game, and I can actually, yeah, play it as a real game. So what I can do now is let's add the little extension here allow the user to keep guessing until all 4 numbers are correct. Now, you're not going to learn this technique until we learn about while loops, but you can get a little preview. If I write do and while, this is going to repeat these lines of code until something happens with this while loop. So very similar to an if statement condition. When do we want to stop repeating the loop? Well, we want them to stop repeating the loop when this counter gets to 4. So when the counter is equal to 4, then stop repeating the loop. Now we've got a little problem here that the counter is not recognized because we've created the counter underneath. So let's create the counter before the while loop, and there we go, now it's recognized. And we'll put all of this code inside that while loop. So it's going to start here, and then it's going to end here, and then check, does the counter equal to 4? If it does, then stop the game. If it doesn't, then get them to enter the number of numbers again. Now the only thing is that it's going to keep the value of those counters. So let's say I got 2 correct the first time. In fact, let's do a little console.write line here to say you have 1. So if I get 2 corrects the first time, let's say I got 1 and 5 correct, but then I get 0 and 0, so I've only got 2 correct, right? If I do it again, if I get 1, oops, I've just realized I should have put it in. So let's try that again, because I've used a loop, haven't I? So 5 and 4, 0, 0. So I found 2 numbers, and we've won with those 2 numbers. So just spotted a small mistake here. I shouldn't be saying, well, the counter equals to 4, keep looping, because what that means is that it's going to keep looping if the counter is equal to 4. And you notice when I got 2 of them correct, so 1 and 4, and they got the other correct, well, the counter doesn't equal 4, so it's just ended the loop. So what I should be saying is does not equal 4. So if it does not equal 4, then keep looping. So 5, 4, then we've got 2 and 4. We want, oh, I should have got that. I should have, let's do that one more time. So I want to get 2 of them correct, 5 and 4, and then the other 2 incorrect. So we've got 2 found correct. So we're going to do that again, 5 and 4, 0 and 0. But notice now we've got 4 correct. So the problem is, we'll see if you can spot it. How come first time it said we got 2 correct, we've put in the exact same numbers, and this time we've got 4 correct. So see if you can work that out. So the solution is, so the reason is it's adding the 2 numbers together, then it's checking the while loop, and then it's going back up here to line 29, but the counter still is equal to 2. So once it's got to this part of the code, and then it's doing the exact same, 1 is correct, 2 is correct, it's now going to equal to 3 and then 4. So what we need to do is, once we get to the top of the loop, we need to reset the counter back to 0. Then that will make sure that you have to get all 4 correct. So if I get 1 and then 2 and then the next 2 incorrect, it says we've only found 2 numbers. So if I do that again, we've still only found 2 numbers. If I get all 4 of them correct now, 1, 1, 1, and 3, now it says I've won. So a little bit of preview of how loops work. So final one here was, can you create a random card generator once we've learned array? So this is another little bit of a preview. I was having trouble trying to think of challenges for random number generators, because once you've generated a random number, it's a bit difficult to do something with that without learning extra techniques. So let's have a little bit of a preview with arrays. So I'm going to keep my random number generator. Let's get rid of all this code. I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to copy something I've created which is two what are known as arrays. So these arrays contain all of the suits of a card and all of the numbers of a card. So diamonds, hearts, clubs and spades, and then ace to jack, queen, king, and all of the numbers as well. So when I'm choosing a random suit, how many suits are there? There's 1, 2, 3, or 4. Now, you're going to learn how this works in arrays later on. However, we need to generate a random number between 0 and 3, not 1 and 4, because when you're using arrays will start at 0 and not 1. So to generate a random number between 0 and 4, I think I'm going to have to do 0 and 3, so I'll need to 0 and 4. So that's the random suit, and then we do not need another random number generator. Yeah, when you're creating random numbers, you only need to create one random number generator. You don't need to create a second one. So I'm going to call this random number. So the number is going to be between 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So we need 0 to 12. I should really know how many numbers there are in a card deck. If we console.writeline, what we can do is output the random suit. And the way arrays work is, if I wanted to output the first element of this array, I would say output 0, and that will output diamonds. Let's actually do that for not suits, so suits. So the array is called suits, and if I output suit 0, that's going to output diamond. And I'll spell it correctly. So instead of saying suit 0, I can now do a random suit instead, because this number is going to be random 0, 1, 2, 3. So let's test that out. So this time it chose spade. This time it showed clubs. Let's add that to our random number. So I'm going to say random number, put a square bracket. So again, if I was to do 0, that's going to definitely say ace. So let's test this out first. And let's put a plus. Let's add an of. So ace of clubs, ace of spade. Should be spades, shouldn't it? Ace of spades again. So how do we randomize this one? Well, we can use the second random number generator between 1 and 11 and put that in the square bracket there. So now it's going to choose a random one of these. Don't worry if you don't quite understand how these arrays work, because I'm going to have an entire video on how arrays work in the future. So 9 of diamonds, jack of spades. So I'm happy that we now have a random number generator, or a random card generator now. And that's it. If you have any questions about how any of this works, please let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, give this video a like and hit that subscribe button. I will see you guys next time.